Welcome back to another episode of NBA by Jellyman. This week we cover off a week after the All-Star break, so the 24th, Friday, to today, Wednesday the 1st of March, weekly preview, deep dive into the adjustments across the last week that potentially the refs have made, the defense has increased, the player points, player props, all that sort of jazz. It's been a bit of a difficult week with all those adjustments, and I guess it's the time of the year where things get serious for certain teams. They lock down defensively and they start playing some basketball, but it's been good to see, and we'll take it through. So topic 1, the weekly review from the 24th to the 2nd to the 1st of March, as we mentioned. Topic 2, deep dive, so changes since the All-Star break, as mentioned, refereeing, total points, player props, all that sort of jazz. Topic 3, player and team consistencies as per usual. Topic 4, NBA Week 19 preview. And then topic 5, NBA Thursday the 2nd of March, bets. And then also take you through all the data and all the stats that we have tomorrow that are ready for members and for myself to have a look at too. A look into and deep dive to get those recommendations up and about. But we'll jump into it. So topic 1, looking at going back to Friday the 24th and how that day looks. So we had the Nuggets beating the Cavs 115-109. Jokic, another triple-double, 24, 18, and 13. Evan Mobley had 31 points. The Celtics beat the Pacers in overtime, 142-138. The Magic beat the Pistons. The Sixers beat the Grizzlies in Philadelphia, 110-105. Harden, 31, 7 and 7. Bane had 25 points. The Raptors beat the Pelicans. Ingram had 36 points. The Mavericks beat the Spurs 142-116. The Jazz beat the Thunder in overtime. The Lakers beat the Warriors behind Beasley's 25 points. The Kings beat the Blazers 133-116 behind a triple-double from Sabonis. And interesting on that day, so just a couple of notes with the total points. 7 of 9 games were 223 plus total points, which is around about the season average. Saturday had 6 of 8 games, 223 plus total points, and then Sunday it actually differs. So Saturday we had the Knicks beat the Wizards. Randall had 46 points. The Hawks beat the Cavs in Atlanta 136-119. T.Young 34 points. Garland 33 points. The Bucks smashed the Heat in Milwaukee. Butler 23, Holiday 24. 128-99 was the score in that one. The Hornets beat the Wolves 121-113. LaMelo had 32, 10 and 8. Edwards had 29 points. The Bulls thumped the Nets 131-87. The Nets actually didn't have a fast break point in that game, which was quite interesting. Well, I choke on my own dribble. That was an interesting stat that we found for the Nets not having a fast break point and then turning around the next game where they did have fast break points. The Suns beat the Thunder 124-115. Book had 25, 6 and 8. Isaiah Joe 28 points in that one. The Warriors beat the Rockets easily. Klay Thompson had 42 points and 12 threes. And the Kings beat the Clippers 176-175 in double overtime. De'Aaron Fox 42 points. Monk a big game as well. Leonard 44 points. And Paul George also a big game, 30 plus points in that one. Moving to Sunday's games, the Raptors beat the Pistons in a low-scoring affair, 95-91. The Hornets beat the Heat, 108-103. Mark Williams had 18 and 20. Hero had 33 points. The Pacers beat the Magic. Miles Turner, 24 points. The Knicks beat the Pelicans, 128-108. Randall, 28 points. The Grizzlies beat the Nuggets, 112-94. Moran had 23 points, but in quite a low-scoring game as well. The Celtics beat the Sixers 110-107, and the Jazz beat the Spurs 118-102. Interesting stat for that game. 5 of the 7 games were under 221 points, so there's a bit of a theme rolling on here. Monday's games actually also saw 5 of 9 games go under 221 points as well. The Suns and Bucks went under 104-101. 2 very offensive dominant teams grinding on defense, but also 2 contenders. The Hawks beat the Nets 129-127, the highest scoring game. 2 teams in that 5 to 7 position in the East, but both teams like to get up and down the court, don't play a lot of defense. The Bulls beat the Wizards 102-82. Obviously, the total points went under in that one. The Bulls, since the All-Star break, have grinded it in defensively, which has been quite interesting to watch. The Lakers beat the Mavericks 111-108, also going under. The Cavaliers beat the Raptors 118-93. The Raptors once again only scoring 90-odd points. The Kings beat the Thunder 124 to 115. The Kings have the highest offensive rating in the league, so look for their offensive points to always be over. The Warriors beat the Wolves 109 to 104, 31 to 17 in that last quarter. An interesting one on that one was they played Edwards at a box and one. The Clippers did the same thing today, and he was held under 20 points both times. So look for that to be a theme going forward, with obviously Edwards dominating the ball and dominating the scoring for the Timberwolves of late. The Blazers beat the Rockets 131 to 114. Damian Lillard had 71 points in that one. And the Nuggets beat the Clippers in overtime 134 to 124 there. So there was actually another buzzer beater that George hit that was late that would have won them the game. Tuesday's games, 3 of the 4 games actually under 204 points. So the Hornets beat the Pistons 117 to 106, 223 points there. The Heat beat the Sixers 101 to 99, defensive slog. The Knicks beat the Celtics 109 to 94, defensive slog. And the Magic beat the Pelicans 101 to 93, defensive slog. So there's a theme across the last week that's sort of translating. We're moving to Wednesday's games now. So Wednesday's games had quite a lot of, I guess, we'll go through it one by one. The Wizards beat the Hawks 119 to 116. As mentioned, the Hawks are an offensive team. The Wizards only scored 80 points the other day, so it's a big turnaround. The Bucks beat the Nets 118. The Bucks beat the Nets 118 to 104, under 223 points there. The Bulls were beaten by the Raptors in Toronto 104 to 98. Another low-scoring game. The Grizzlies beat the Lakers 129 to 109. The Nuggets beat the Rockets 133 to 112, but the Rockets can't play any defense. The Kings beat the Thunder 123 to 117. Once again, a high-scoring game there. The Pacers beat the Mavericks 124 to 122. The Mavericks have struggled defensively of late and this season. The Spurs beat the Jazz 102 to 94. The Warriors beat the Blazers 123 to 105. And then the Timberwolves beat the Clippers 108 to 101. So out of the games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of 10 games, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 10 games went under, which means a lot of them went over. So compared to the last week or so, the body of work, today's games were a bit different with a lot more high scoring, high energy teams, and it'll be good to, when we go through the preview of the next week, to sort of discuss what potentially those games may look like in advance. Which leads me into the next topic, which is the deep dive into the changes since the All-Star break. So the defense has increased. Now what that means, and I go to the standings for this, you've got the top 8 teams: Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, Cavaliers, Knicks, Nets, Heat, Hawks, Raptors, Wizards, or the top 10 teams, sorry, along with the Bulls. All those teams know to win a championship these days, you have to have defense being, I guess, the catalyst to that. The Bucks have shown it, the Celtics have shown it, the Sixers have shown it, the Cavs have also shown it, the Knicks have shown it in bunches. The Nets, I think, are going to fall out of that top 6, even the top 8 space, just with the squad they've currently got. The Heat will jump into 6. The Hawks also can't defend, but the Raptors have shown defensively they can grind, and same as the Bulls. So it'll be interesting to see who drops out of that 7 to 10 spot if the Nets jump into there. But as I mentioned, sort of those teams at the top echelon, when playing against one another, will show up defensively. We look to the Western Conference, a lot more offense in this conference with the Nuggets, Grizzlies, Kings. The Suns can play defensively well. The Warriors, 50-50 depending on who's on the court for them. The Clippers can lock in defensively. The Mavericks have struggled defensively. The Timberwolves with Gobert in the middle and their squad, they can actually lock in defensively as well. And then you got the Jazz and the Pelicans. I believe the Jazz and the Pelicans will fall out of those positions unless Zion gets back sooner rather than later for the Pelicans. And depending on how well the Lakers go and Blazers go, they might jump into that 9th and 10th spot. But I think 1 to 8 is pretty much locked in there in the West. They're my thoughts anyway. Also, player props and points adjustments. So discussing that, moving from more points over to maybe alternative points, as well as more rebounds rather than points, player props. So depending on who it is and who they're playing, say for example if Dame Lillard's playing the Rockets, as we saw 71 points, he's going to score a lot of points. But then also looking at, if Denver plays the Rockets, it might not be a close game. So Joker and likes of may not score a lot of points in that matchup. Looking at tomorrow's games, probably the best example. We've got the Suns at the Hornets. So although the Hornets have been playing well, the Suns have KD, but then KD, Booker, Ayton and Paul, how are they all going to all match well together? We're listing down Paul to have a lot of assists in that matchup, passing to Ayton, KD and Booker. He'll be having a field day. Also, the Hornets are allowing a fair amount of points as well. And then we look at the Cavaliers and Celtics. Do they lock in defensively against one another? Will there be potentially a lot of missed shots, which means a lot of rebounds for guys like Allen, Mobley, even Tatum to that extent has been rebounding well of late. Same as the Sixers and the Heat. You know, Jimmy Butler's rebounds will be up because Bam will be worrying about Embiid on that block out the three-point line, wherever else he might be, so Jimmy Butler has to help out in the boards. Nets and the Knicks, that might be a high offensive game because the Nets love to run and gun at the moment with the team they've got. So look for the points over to be that one. The Grizzlies and the Rockets, I wouldn't be looking at any player props in that one because the Grizzlies should win by 15 plus. That's how much the Rockets have been losing of late in the last 5 games. And then also the refereeing adjustment. So in the few games we've watched so far after the All-Star break, it seems that the refs are letting a lot more go. So those ticky-tack fouls we've seen earlier on in the season, and now I'm not sure if this is directed from the league coming into the playoffs, but it always tends to be when they get to the playoffs, they just let the guys play. Offense wins, defense wins, everyone wins when they let everyone play. The guys who whinge and complain potentially lose out because they should just be making those baskets, but we'll see how that tracks towards the back end of the season. But yeah, there's then that refereeing adjustment as well. That's a quick deep dive into our thoughts about the changes. Obviously, we'll probably come back here next Wednesday and have another solid insight about what we've seen from 2 weeks of work. We saw this sort of last season as well. Towards the back end of the season, it gets more legit, it gets more serious. And teams start playing a lot more defense, so it's just something to be mindful of. Obviously, there's still going to be teams that play a lot of offense, and high scores are going to be there because of the specific teams, but it's just knowing and picking and choosing, I guess, your battles with those player point props and total points over props. Topic 3, player and team consistency. So we'll jump through them one by one here. So the Hawks have actually had 235 plus total points. It's one of those teams in their last 3 games, so since the All-Star break. And then T.Young, 31 plus points in his last 3 games. The Celtics, Malcolm Brogdon off the bench, 22 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games. Tatum hasn't been playing that well either, so they've needed a scoring option. The Brooklyn Nets, they've lost 5 of their last 6 games. Mikal Bridges, 21 plus points in 10 of his last 12 games. And then Dinwiddie, 5 plus assists in 6 of his last 7 games. The Hornets, they've actually won their last 5 games, but they are coming up against the Suns tomorrow, luckily at home, but I think LaMelo Ball's also out with a fractured ankle, so look for the Suns to have a big win in that one. The Chicago Bulls under 220 plus points, total points in 6 of the last 7 games. So looking at the Bulls to grind defensively, but no player props in that one unless it's potentially Levine. DeRozan has been shooting well of late. Cavaliers, Mitchell 29 plus points in 5 of his last 7 games, and then Garland 18 plus points in his last 4 games, and Jarrett Allen 9 plus rebounds in 7 of his last 8 games. The Mavericks, they've actually lost 5 of their last 6 games, and then 227 plus total points in 6 of their last 7 games. Luka 7 plus rebounds in 5 of his last 6 games. Denver Nuggets, they've won 6 of their last 7 games. Joker 11 plus rebounds in his last 12 games. Also 10 plus assists in 4 of his last 5 games, and Michael Porter Jr. 17 plus points in 5 of his last 6 games there. The Golden State Warriors, they've actually won their last 3 games, all being at home. Klay Thompson 22 plus points in 5 of his last 6 games, playing well there. A lot of those bigger games are at home. The Rockets, they've lost their last 10 games, and their last 5 losses have been by 15 plus points, and they play the Grizzlies, luckily at home in Houston for them, but the Grizzlies are coming off a good win against the Lakers and need all the wins they can get to stay out of, I guess, lower positions on the ladder with guys chasing them. The Pacers, 229 plus total points in their last 6 games, and Miles Turner, 24 plus points in his last 3 games and 7 plus rebounds in his last 4 games. For the Clippers, Paul George, 23 plus points in his last 4 games. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis, a few big games, 28 plus points in 3 of his last 4 games, and then also 12 plus rebounds in 6 of his last 7 games. The Miami Heat, Butler, 22 plus points in 5 of his last 6 games. And for the Bucks, they've won their last 15 games, and 11 of the last 15 wins have been by 8 plus points, so covering the line aplenty there. The Timberwolves, Rudy, 16 plus points in his last 4 games. For the Pelicans, they've actually lost their last 4 games and on a slow decline. It's offense that's really a struggle for them. If it's not CJ and Ingram, it's no one else at the moment. 25 plus points for Ingram in 8 of his last 9 games there. The Knicks, they've won their last 6 games, and Randall, 23 plus points in 6 of his last 7 games. The OKC Thunder, they've actually lost their last 4 games. SGA went healthy, isn't healthy at the moment. 4 of his last 5 games, 29 plus points. For the Magic, Markelle Fultz, 14 plus points in his last 5 games. For the Suns, Ayton, 22 plus points in 6 of his last 8 games, and then 11 plus rebounds in 4 of his last 5 games. For Booker, 8 plus assists in his last 4 games as well. So he'll be an interesting one to watch tomorrow. Have a look at his assist numbers. They might be fairly valuable with KD coming in. And obviously, the big one is, CP3 and Booker getting easy assists when they throw it to Ayton in the mid-range. He gets so many easy buckets through that space. The 76ers, actually under 218 total points in their last 3 games, so since the All-Star break. Here's an interesting stat on Embiid. He's actually had 27 plus points in 12 of his last 13 games, but under 34 points in 9 of his last 13 games. So sitting within that 27 to 34 range, which is quite interesting, we found. Also for Embiid, 12 plus rebounds in 5 of his last 6 games. So that could be an interesting combination if you want to try it out. Embiid, 27 plus points, under 34.5 points or 33.5 points, and then 12 plus rebounds. See what that could potentially get you. Harden, 20 plus points in 7 of his last 8 games, and Maxey, 16 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games. For the Blazers, 227 plus points, total points in their last 16 games, so plenty of points being scored. Lillard, 38 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games and 6 plus assists in 5 of his last 6 games. Sacramento Kings, number 1 offense in the league, have won their last 4 games, 229 plus points in their last 10 games. Sabonis, 18 plus points in 7 of his last 8 games and 13 plus rebounds in 5 of his last 6 games. And for the Raptors, Siakam, 8 plus rebounds in his last 3 games. Trent Jr., 18 plus points off the bench in 4 of his last 5 games. Last but not least, Markkanen for the Utah Jazz, 27 plus points in his last 5 games. Topic 4, NBA Week 19 preview, or just the week coming preview. NBA Week Ahead preview is what I'll call it these days. Week 19 probably has no relevance. So looking at Thursday, so KD obviously debut for the Suns. So Cavaliers at Boston will be an interesting matchup. The Cavs obviously struggle away from home, but then Boston haven't been playing great of late and lost big to the Knicks. Then we've got the Sixers at the Heat, so that rematch. So obviously the Heat won the last matchup 101-99, or was it 100-99? The Nets at the Knicks as well. The Knicks have been playing well. And then the Lakers at OKC. Remember the last matchup the Lakers and OKC played? It was in LA and LeBron broke the scoring record. And Anthony Davis is fuming. So look at Anthony Davis, potentially a big game in that one. Coming off a good game today against the Grizzlies, but obviously with a loss. Friday's games, got the Sixers at the Mavericks is an interesting one for us there. Obviously the Sixers will come off a back-to-back in Miami, so have to travel across to Dallas. But Dallas has been playing very poorly, so that'll be an interesting matchup to watch. And then the Clippers at the Golden State Warriors. So the Clippers coming off also a few losses in a row, and the Warriors a few wins in a row at home. Saturday's games, quite a few interesting games here. The Nets playing the Celtics in Boston, the Knicks at Miami. So obviously against the Heat. The Suns at Chicago, so it'll be potentially a defensive, gritty game. The Grizzlies at the Nuggets, so that's matchup that obviously Denver lost last time in Memphis, and Memphis will be playing okay at the moment. The Clippers at Sacramento, sort of mentioned that big overtime game, 176-175, and the Clippers losing a few games in a row. Do they win that Golden State game, or do they roll a losing streak into that Sacramento game? And then the Wolves at the Lakers is always an interesting matchup with a few of those changes to the teams and swapping a couple of players across. Sunday's games, got the Hawks at the Miami Heat, so offense versus defense, always an interesting matchup with Young versus Butler, etc., etc. The Sixers play Milwaukee, so it's another challenge for the Sixers to see if they can play that top tier competition. They haven't shown it as yet, losing to Boston a fair few times and also being unable to beat Milwaukee as of yet. And the Wolves play Sacramento, so once again, defense, offense will be an interesting matchup. Also, Sacramento at home are very dominant. Monday's game, Suns at Dallas. So obviously that matchup from the playoffs last season. Dallas mentioned it already, playing average. The Warriors at the Lakers. The Warriors away, and then the Lakers without LeBron at the moment. The Knicks playing Boston, and then the Grizzlies at the Clippers. Tuesday's games is only a couple of games, but Celtics at the Cavaliers, depending on how tomorrow's matchup goes, will be an interesting contest. Back to Cleveland they go after playing in Boston tomorrow. Wednesday's games, the Sixers at the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies at the Lakers. So the Grizzlies obviously just played the Lakers. A nice little post about Shannon Sharp on their Instagram as well. So potentially a bit of a grudge match there, heading back into LA for that matchup. Last but not least, topic 5. Obviously looking at tomorrow's best bets and what sort of we're looking at in terms of games, lines, head-to-heads, player props, all that sort of stuff. So the Phoenix Suns at the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at my time. The Hornets have won their last 5 games, as I mentioned. The Suns actually beat the Hornets 128-97 in Phoenix on the 25th of January. Rozier had 19 points that one. Chris Paul 11 assists. Side note, Chris Paul obviously returning to Charlotte. No, not the Hornets. Sorry, not returning to Charlotte. That's New Orleans Pelicans. But Paul assists is a good one to look at in this one with KD. It's not up yet, I don't think, with KD, Booker, and Ayton down low. Just going to check if it's up as of yet. Assists. So his over-under assists is at plus 9.5. Booker's assists is at plus 8.5. As we mentioned about Booker, so he's 460 for 8 assists. That's something to potentially look at. And then for Paul, his, I guess, you could have a look at his large assists. 10 plus assists is $210. 12 plus assists is $410. 14 plus assists is $9. So, there's a bit of value there, potentially $410 mark for Chris Paul's assists. I wouldn't be looking at the Charlotte Hornets. And even player points for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, Ayton's had 22 plus points in 6 of his last 8 games. His over-under is currently sitting at 20.5. Kevin Durant's listed at 23.5 over-under, so will he be looking to make an impact? Having a quick look at Kevin Durant playing the Hornets. Kevin Durant playing the Hornets in his last few matchups, he has had 23, 29, 27, 27, 14, 38, 25, 29. So 23 plus points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 8 matchups against the Hornets there. So we'll be looking at most likely Chris Paul assists over 10 plus. He's at 11 and 16 in his last 2 matchups against the Hornets, or even Booker's assist over, but we'll make that decision in the AM. Next game rolling into is the Bulls at the Pistons. We won't be looking at any player props in this one, but the Bulls line currently is valued to us without knowing who's going to be sitting or not. Here we go, it's got here. So they've got at the moment listed lineups: Beverly, Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, Vooch. And then for the Pistons, Hayes, Ivy, Bogdanovic is back, Bagley, and Wiseman. I like the Chicago Bulls line minus 5.5 in this one. That's something we will be definitely eating up. Put that on there. So the Bulls under 220 plus points in 6 of the last 7 games. The Bulls beat the Pistons 132-118 in Chicago on 31-12. And then the Bulls beat the Pistons once again. That was actually that Paris game that they played on the 20th of the 1st. So overseas there, with a few players playing well in that one. Next game, the Cavs at the Celtics. Probably a game we won't be looking at a head-to-head, just with those 2 teams being so evenly matched. The line is at minus 6.5. Current lineups, so the Cavaliers are fully healthy, and the Celtics have named Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Williams, only added potentially Muscala. So that's an interesting one there. The Cavaliers plus 6.5. We will be staying away from the line on that one and looking at probably the player points over, most likely a Donovan Mitchell type. Donovan Mitchell over 25.5 in this one. Tatum over 27.5. Tatum had 32 points in the matchup in Boston on the 29th of October. Has been playing well of late. Also potentially looking at Jarrett Allen rebounds or Tatum rebounds as well. Jarrett Allen rebounds is at over 10.5 at the moment. Mobley's at over 9.5. Tatum at plus 8.5 there for rebounds. So a few guys will be having a look at that. That probably is the main one. I mean, maybe combining Mitchell and Tatum together for 25 plus points. But Tatum has been playing very average of late. Even at Jaylen Brown, points over with him resting last game. And against the Cavs in the past, he's actually had 30, 32, 34, 28, 33, 34. So we'll be looking at Jaylen Brown points over in this one. So 30, 32, 34, 28, 33, and 34 points in his last 6 matchups against the Cavaliers. And 32, 34, and 33, 34 in his home matchups against the Cavs. So Jaylen Brown points over in that one for us is a good buy. Next game is the Sixers at the Heat. Probably another game we'll be staying away from the head-to-head. It's $1.84, $2 to the Heat. Definitely even money there. Looking at the rebound markets here, Joel Embiid over 11.5 rebounds is value for money there. Jimmy Butler plus 5.5 rebounds, 205. We actually like that as well. Obviously, as I mentioned, with Bam taking care of or having to deal with Joel in that mid-range, that will be him taking up on the rebounds, which means Butler will have to jump in there. We did mention earlier about what a 25 plus points and then under points. So Embiid's over-under is at 29.5 at the moment, so it's dropped down a little bit currently, so that may not work for this matchup. But as we mentioned, Butler rebounds over, also potentially his points over with getting to the line against the Sixers being a big thing, even his points and rebounds. So we'll probably land on here his points and rebounds over 26.5. That's not too bad. Even combining that to maybe over 27.5, him having 20 plus points and 8 plus rebounds is likely in this matchup. He's had 23, 27, 21 points in his last 3 matchups in the regular season against the Sixers. So no head-to-head in that one. Moving to the next game, we've got the Nets at the Knicks. So the Nets are actually coming off a back-to-back today. Obviously a loss to the Bucks. The line is at minus 7.5 for the Knicks. It looks like the Nets have named Dinwiddie, Bridges, Johnson, Finney-Smith, Claxton, and the Knicks are fully healthy. Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, and Robinson. For the Knicks, they've covered the line. So they've won their last 6 games. They won their last game by 15, 22, 6, 21, and 18 points, which was against the Nets there. So all their 6 games have been by 6 plus points, if my math is correctly. Yep, all their games have been by 6 plus points. So even an alternative line here would be, it probably won't let me open that up this time. No, it won't. Even a line of maybe 6.5, just depending on what it looks like tomorrow. But the Knicks line looks good in that one, especially with them winning quite a few games in a row. Even combining them into a head-to-head multi would also be good. And Julius Randle over 23 points. Claxton down low. We'll have to worry about Mitchell Robinson, and there's no good one-on-one matchup for Randle there. So looking at his points over as well. The next game, the Grizzlies to the Rockets, probably another game we like the line in. So minus 9.5 for the Grizzlies. Even potentially a bit higher, but minus 9.5 is pretty safe there. The Rockets, as mentioned, have lost their last 5 games by 15 plus points, and even watching them today against the Nuggets, they looked like they'd given up halfway through the third quarter, and their offense looks clunky, and there's not many nice things to say about the Rockets at the moment, just how they're playing their basketball, which is unfortunate there. The next game we look at is the Magic and the Bucks. Now, the Magic are a bogey team of ours and of teams up top of the league. It seems they like to show up for these sort of games and break lines and all the rest. So it's a game we're probably going to stay away from the line of, and maybe have a look at the player points over. Depending on who plays, at the moment the Bucks have listed Holiday, Allen, Connaughton, Giannis, and Lopez. With the Magic listing Fultz, Harris, Wagner, Banchero, and Carter Jr. Does that change tomorrow? Maybe Giannis rests. Who knows? Having a quick look into where Orlando are currently sitting on the ladder. Reason being is because, or on the standings, sorry. Reason being is they could make a late push. They're currently 26 and 36, and they're 3.5 games out of that 10th playing position. So they're 2 off the bottom, and then they're potentially 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 5th last in the conference, but then they could potentially play a playing game. So not too sure of their intentions and if they want, but they've actually won 6 of the last 10 games as well. So they've won a few games in a row, and maybe they could be vying for a play-in spot, or maybe they're just trying to win when they can and upset a few teams. But that's probably a game we'll be steering clear of. Just both teams 50-50. Obviously, the Bucks have won their last 15 games, and 11 of their last 15 wins have been by 8+ points. So we may look at a line in that one, just seeing we want to finalise those teams there. The next game we look into is the Lakers at the Thunder. So the Lakers at the Thunder, we've got Lakers actually favoured 183, the Thunder 201. It's all dependent upon health here. So we've got Schroeder, Beasley, Brown, Vanderbilt, Davis. And then for OKC, no SGA. So we've got Giddey, Joe, Dort, Williams, and Williams. We probably like the Lakers in that one. They need to get a win there. Alternatively, Anthony Davis points over. His points over mark is at 28.5, which is quite high, and then his rebounds is actually also at 15.5. So that's probably too high for us to have a dabble in. Maybe a Jared Vanderbilt rebounds over, even a Schroeder assists as well, because Anthony Davis has got to have someone passing him the ball. His assists are at 7.5 at the moment. That's not too bad of a double. Also Malik Beasley points over. They're currently listed at 14.5. So there are a couple of the ones we'd be having a look at. I said that Anthony Davis one is a bit too high for us to have a dabble into, especially with the way with scoring is looking at the moment. But potentially LA head-to-head looks good as well. Last but not least, the Pelicans at the Blazers. So the Blazers obviously lost the Warriors today, pulled their players quite early on, 4 minutes left. The Blazers are 173, the Pelicans are 212. We'll be looking at the Blazers in this one to get a win. They do need a win after losing today, but there is quite a lot of players out for both teams just looking at the moment. So the Pelicans named CJ, but then Richardson 50-50, Ingram, Jones, JaVale 50-50, Alvarado is out, Nance is out, Zion's out. For the Blazers, Lillard, Reddish, Thibault, Grant, and Eubanks. With Nurkic, Simons, and Winslow all out, and a couple other outs there that are probably not really worth mentioning. But having a look at this one, I mean, Dame's actually had 39, 36, 40, and 43 points against the Pelicans in his past 4 matchups. His over-under is currently sitting at 35.5, so I'd be taking his potential over in this one. He's had 36 plus points in his last 4 matchups against the Pelicans. And the Pelicans struggle defensively, or not struggle defensively as such, but struggle offensively. So Blazers head-to-head and to get a win out in the break there, potentially also cover the line. But that is all for this evening. Feel free to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Obviously, follow along on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions about the upcoming NRL or AFL season, also reach out. If you have any questions about the current NBA season, also reach out via Messenger or anywhere else. Good luck for your week ahead of hunting, and good luck if you are jumping on the NRL this week as well.